The story begins in a fantastical world, where humans and magical creatures both inhabit different regions of the planet. Deep inside a lush forest, where dozens of magical beast species thrive and coexist, a young mother dragon descends into her cave. After laying on her egg for the whole night, it's time for her to hunt for food, so she covers her egg with dirt. However, just the soil alone is not enough to ease the mother dragon's worries, so she blasts the dirt with red-hot flames, keeping the ground warm while she is away. Once she's satisfied, she leaves the cave and flies out into the sky, searching for prey. As the dragon's gaze lands on a pair of wolves, she swoops in to capture them. Suddenly, she gets shot by an arrow straight to the head, hunted by a group of humans hidden in the bushes on the ground. After the mother dragon dies, they move in to collect her hide and meat. Sometime later, a pregnant creature called a cat sith wanders into the same cave where the dragon sheltered her egg. Compared to normal cats, the cat siths are an intelligent race that can think smartly and use magic. As this mother cat notices the cave's peaceful environment, she settles inside to give birth. A short while later, her kittens are born, and the warmth of their lively bodies seeps into the egg buried underneath the ground. This causes the baby dragon to finally hatch from its shell, and the tiny creature pokes its confused head out of the ground. Concerned, the mother cat immediately notices and pulls out the baby dragon. Exposed to the cold air of the cave, the tiny dragon starts shivering. Seeing this, the mother cat sniffs its body a few times, and she decides that it's a completely harmless creature. Then, with a heart full of compassion, she allows the dragon to nurse from her with her own babies. Since magical creatures aren't limited by normal boundaries, it's normal for them to sometimes raise children from other species. Watching the baby dragon snuggle with her children, the mother cat wonders just what kind of fantastical beast it will grow up to become. A few days later, once the babies are able to move around, the mother cat starts teaching them to hunt. She shows them how to stalk the prey from a hiding spot and how to ambush them successfully. Aside from physical hunting, the mother cat also teaches her children how to use lightning magic, since cat siths are capable of using magic spells. The baby dragon tries to copy its siblings, but it's unable to cast the lightning spell due to the difference in their talents. Then, it flaps its small wings to lift its own body off the ground, which leaves everyone impressed. Instead of lightning bolts, the baby dragon tries to use a fireball, which sadly misfires and blows it away instead. Still, the dragon quickly recovers from its failure after some encouragement from its mom and siblings. Suddenly, the mother cat detects a hostile presence nearby, and she orders all her children to remain silent. Although the kids obey, they quietly ask her why she's so afraid of these new creatures. The mom cat explains that these creatures are humans who come from a nearby kingdom. Since the forest houses plenty of weak monster species, these humans have named it the Novice Forest, and they send their beginners here to gain experience. After finishing her explanation, the mother cat warns her babies that humans can either be very kind or very cruel, depending on the individual. Also, she tells them that humans can be powerful enough to kill giant bears, and they also hunt the cat siths as prey for materials. Since these humans are so dangerous, she warns her kittens to avoid them at all costs. Hearing her stern warning, all the kids memorize the scent of humans and make a mental note to avoid them in the future. A few days later, a bright purple glow erupts from the forest, coming from a sudden summoning circle. The target of this summoning is the mother cat, who realizes that the nearby humans are trying to summon her. As the kids watch in confusion, she realizes this is goodbye. She begins to gently guide them with her last words, reminding her children to stick together if they ever face danger in the forest. Although she is confident they can survive with their own skills, she informs her children that she has had many other offspring in the forest who will readily help them if they ever need it. Then, after wishing all of her children a long, healthy life, the mother cat finally disappears and the summoning circle closes in front of the devastated children. Years later, after the cats have grown up, they leave their original cave to venture out and begin their lives as adults. Only the baby dragon, who has now grown into a handsome beast, stays behind in the place where his mother first raised him. Although the dragon can survive on his own, he feels lonely without the company of his siblings, who have been with him all these years. After some time, one of the dragon's cat sisters returns home with her husband. She introduces him to her dragon brother, who happily welcomes them both into the cave. Later, the sister cat gives birth to her kittens, and the dragon takes it upon himself to raise them. He teaches them all to hide and hunt mice just like a cat, and warns them to stay away from humans anytime they see them. The little kittens agree and accept all of their uncle's lessons, and once they grow up as well, they all leave the cave to begin their lives in the forest. Sometime later, a strange female cat walks over to the dragon's cave. Although she is a new cat, the dragon recognizes the scent of one of his brothers on her. It turns out that this female cat is one of his brother's daughters and needs shelter as she is heavily pregnant. She explains to the dragon that her father had told her to seek refuge with her uncle if she ever needed it, which is why she is now visiting him. Hearing that his siblings still remember and trust him while living their lives far away in the forest, the dragon tears up with joy, and he immediately allows the young cat to rest in his cave. Over the years, the dragon continues to grow bigger and stronger, and he gains the ability to converse with natural spirits. During one of their chats, he finally learns that he's actually a different species from the cat Siths. The disappointed dragon explains this to his cat relatives, but none of them care. Instead, they smile at him just like before, so he forgets his worries and continues to teach them. One day, as the dragon peacefully flies over the forest, he spots some humans with a massive pile of dead cats, hunted for nothing but their pelts. The dragon bursts into a rage and burns the humans alive. After destroying the humans, the dragon asks the spirits if they hunt cats for food. They explain that humans only hunt cats for their fur, which causes the dragon to get even angrier, since he thinks a creature should not be killed unless it's for food or survival. In his childhood, the dragon was too weak to protect everyone. Now, things are different, as he holds the immense power of a dragon's body, alongside the destructive capabilities of spirit magic. The dragon decides it's had enough of the humans' cruelty, and it flies over to the nearest kingdom to warn them. As the humans notice the giant dragon in their land, he announces in a dominant tone that he has killed the adventurers who murdered the innocent cats. He warns the rest of the humans that they will suffer the same fate if they don't stop attacking the cats without reason, but the humans refuse to listen to his words. Instead, they call all their mages and attack the dragon with lightning spells. Because humans cannot use pure spirit magic, their spells are incredibly weak and ineffective against the powerful dragon. The dragon grows furious at their rebellion, and he starts burning the entire kingdom with his flames. In his rage, he thinks that all humans deserve to die, but then he spots the weak commoners, as well as an innocent young girl crying helplessly on the ground. The girl also has a pet cat, who bravely tries to defend her from the dragon. Seeing one of his own relatives so close to a human, the dragon's heart is moved, and he decides to forgive them for the sake of their kind people. However, he does not leave them without a warning, saying that if the humans kill another cat without the need for food or self-defense, he will follow up on his previous punishments. Years after the dragon rampage, a new prince has grown up in the human kingdom. Unfortunately, this prince has a pitiful magic talent, so the entire royal family is worried for his future. The prince himself knows about his shortcomings, so he sneaks out of his room at night, trying to practice magic on his own. After he fails multiple attempts, a cat appears by his side. The prince looks towards the cat, who gives him comfort at this tough moment. Then, he tries again, and this time, he successfully burns a leaf with the power of his magic. The prince celebrates his victory, but he notices that the cat is also cheering. Since cats are not allowed in the palace, the prince figures that this cat snuck in here at night. However, he also knows that the kingdom is supposed to leave all cats alone and return them to the forest to avoid the dragon's anger. He asks the cat if it can find its way back to the forest, so it nods and leaves. The next night, the prince sneaks out again, wondering if the cat will show up as well. Though he's disappointed at first, the prince quickly finds the cat waiting for him. From that day, the cat starts supporting him in his magic learning journey, to the point where the prince learns how to talk with it. One day, as the prince shares food with the cat, an elder from the palace quietly watches them from a distance. He reports it to the king, who immediately summons the prince for a chat. After making sure that the prince is not mistreating the cat, the king allows him to remain friends with it, thinking that the dragon won't get mad without a reason. Before the elder can voice his protest, an alert startles everyone as the legendary dragon appears once more in the kingdom. The terrified people wonder if their end has come, but the dragon only sits and looks around for a certain someone. Soon, the cat walks out of the palace and begins talking with the dragon. It tells the dragon that it wants to teach magic to the young prince, but he refuses, thinking it's too dangerous to hand over over such a powerful magic to the unpredictable human race. However, the cat reassures him that the prince is his friend, and soon enough, the young boy runs out to meet the dragon. As the cat introduces the prince to him, the dragon recalls the familiar scene of the small cat protecting a young girl all those years ago. This softens his heart, so he agrees to discuss things with the human king. The cat smiles and thanks him, and soon, he uses a shape-shifting magic to achieve a cat form as well. In his cat form, the dragon walks into the king's chambers. The king humbly greets him as the imperial dragon, and the dragon grudgingly admits that the little prince has somehow won over his cat relative, since the cat wants to teach him magic. The dragon offers to let him stay as long as the king agrees. Hearing this, the king is shocked, since the magic used by the dragon is the strongest and most secret magic in the world. However, the dragon doesn't care for it nearly as much, explaining that anyone can learn it by talking to natural spirits. Still, the king knows that spirit magic is powerful enough to literally change the world's power balance in his kingdom's favor. He begins to thank the imperial dragon in a respectful manner, but the dragon thinks he's being too pretentious, and instead tells him to call it the cat dragon. Hearing this, the king smiles and quickly agrees. From that day, the young prince learns the secret spirit magic from the forest cat, and he passes it forward to other humans. As the years go by, whenever a king has a child, the forest cats visit the castle to befriend the new prince and teach him magic. In time, humans begin protecting the forest cats, while the cats continue sharing their precious magic with them in return. Meanwhile, the dragon continues to live in his old home, teaching magic to his descendants in the same protective way he has done all these years. While the dragon story had been going on, the mother cat was facing a challenge of her own after getting summoned by the humans. Unaware of all the dangers her children would experience, she gets summoned by a young magic student called Anne Rasa. As the confused cat appears from her magic circle, the little girl gets terrified, hoping that she won't get attacked. Her teacher is pleasantly surprised, and he tells Anne to show the mother cat around while he handles the other students. Clearly, the terrified girl doesn't want to be alone with a strange beast, but she accepts her teacher's instructions anyway. After the mother cat follows Anne to a private room, she learns that she was summoned as her familiar. Usually, it takes mages at least a few days to summon a monster, so Anne feels scared that she did something wrong by summoning one in a short time. Watching her nervous expressions, the mother cat notes that this young girl is extremely insecure despite being talented. Her heart melts at the sight of her cute face, and she decides to raise her as another one of her own children. In any case, her other children have become adults, so she doesn't mind leaving them in the forest for a while. She asks Anne for her name, and the girl responds without thinking. Realizing that the cat just spoke to her, she passes out from shock. Afterward, Anne takes the rest of her classes at school before following the mother cat for magic practice. She takes the girl to a training ground to demonstrate her magic abilities. Anne obeys and uses an ice shard spell, but her wand only produces a tiny ice pellet. Still, she feels proud that she successfully used an attack. Unfortunately, the mother cat thinks she just made her a snack, so she starts chewing on the ice. Seeing her hard work treated like a toy, Anne starts blushing beet red from embarrassment. The mother cat finally realizes how much guidance she needs, so she demonstrates a lightning spell to help her learn. Anne doesn't feel confident since she has never used a lightning spell before. To help her, the mother cat uses the spell a few more times. Anne takes note of her technique, and then she focuses hard. To her surprise, her wand actually produces a small spark. While she's overjoyed by her success, the mother cat explains that she can increase her power by chanting the spell's name. She takes her advice and chants the spell's name, which creates a powerful lightning bolt that shoots into the training wall. The happiness from this achievement causes Anne to tear up in joy. Unfortunately, happiness is often short-lived, so she has to wake up early the next day to practice again. Every day, the mother cat forces Anne to use her spells again and again. She does this because mana is like stamina, so a person can increase their mana by depleting it with spells and letting it recover gradually. After a while of training the lightning spell, the mother cat asks Anne to try her ice spell again. She tries, but fails miserably again, so the mother cat tells her she's got a long way to go. At lunch, Anne's classmates are shocked to see her eat like she's been starving. In the past, the timid girl never ate more than a few bites, but now she needs the energy to replenish her depleted mana. In class, the mother cat joins Anne, so a student asks the professor professor if she's allowed to be there. The professor explains that he's given the cat special permission to stay, since she's well behaved and helps him with monster research. A girl behind Anne praises her talented familiar, and she admits that the mother cat is truly special. Afterward, the students head out for physical training, so the mother cat leaves the school to hunt. Although there are no common rats in the area, she finds a magic species called gem rats. The gems on these rats' foreheads contain concentrated mana, which makes a great snack for the cat. Later, after Anne comes back from her classes, the mother cat makes her train her magic again. Exhausted from her classes, the poor girl is unable to concentrate at all, so the mother cat tells her to go home and rest. Later that night, she helps Anne's professor with his monster research. He asks her how long the cat siths raise their young, so she admits that they wean off their kids much earlier than other monsters. Hearing this, the professor is surprised, so the mother cat explains that she has raised other monster species as well. Among them, she has raised many strange creatures like the winged dragon, which she cannot identify. However, most of the other creatures grew way slower than her cats, so she had to leave them before they had fully grown up. Interested by her stories, the teacher asks where she originally lived, and learns that she's from the Novice Forest. He tells the mother cat that the people of his kingdom are very familiar with the forest, since they use it as a training ground. After a short while, their discussion ends, and the mother cat leaves. The next day, she is forced to take a bath by Anne. For some reason, Anne turns into a wizarding monster in the shower, drowning the poor mother cat in hot water. The mother cat feels depressed. Anne reminds her that it's necessary to stay clean if she wants to keep attending her classes. Aside from magic training, the mother cat also accompanies Anne in the library, where she helps her study magic. Throughout her whole life, she has worked with magic beasts who always required practical care. Now, she feels pleased in the quiet study environment with her human child. A few days later, one of the students fails their summoning ritual, so their portal connects to the netherworld instead. As some hostile nether monsters pop out of the portal, the teachers rush to defeat them. Anne helps in the fight as well, frying the monsters with her newly learned Thunderbolt spell. Suddenly, a menacing demon appears from the portal, its aura far stronger than any of the previous beasts. Staring into the monster's bloodthirsty eyes, the mages start trembling in their boots from fear. All of a sudden, the mother cat starts talking to the demon as if she knows him very well. Realizing that his mom is right in front of him, the demon instantly loses all his aura points. The teachers watch, horrified, as the mother and demon talk like they're a normal family. The demon explains he was worried about her ever since she got summoned away, so he went to the forest to investigate. There, he found his adopted brother, the baby dragon, which left him even more confused. The mother cat asks if her other kids are okay, so the demon nods. He explains that they're still worried without her, but the mother cat thinks they'll do fine on their own. Then, she happily introduces the teachers to her terrifying adopted son. After a carefree introduction, she suggests turning the summoning circle into a dungeon, so the students can practice fighting against demons. The greater demon protests against her decision, saying that it'll be dangerous for the kids. To fix this, the mother cat forces him to be on guard duty so the kids can remain safe at all times. Hearing all her concerns, the demon wonders why she cares so much for the human students. At this, she reveals that she's currently raising Anne as her own child. Feeling pleased with so many children, the mom cat's two tails start wagging from happiness. In the past, she only used to have one tail, so the demon gets shocked that she has mutated into a new form. The mom cat agrees, explaining that her mana has increased after eating so many gem rats. Thinking about it, the demon figures that this mutation has only increased her lifespan, so he accepts it as a blessing. From that day onward, the magic school starts growing at an incredible rate, thanks to the mother cat's teaching and the experiences learnt from the demon dungeon. After several years, the school produces countless great mages, one of whom happens to be Anne herself. Over the years, she gains a reputation as the Froststorm Witch, known for her terrifying icicle and lightning attacks. Eventually, Anne returns to the Magic Academy as a teacher. All of the new students have heard about her reputation, so they curiously watch her in secret. The mother cat has also returned with her. She first heads into the training hall, where she greets the old professor who worked with her. After years of new contributions, the old man has become the principal of the academy. He welcomes the mother cat back home, who thanks her for taking care of the greater demon and his dungeon all this time. Sensing her presence, the greater demon appears below the mother cat in his cat form. The mother cat smiles at him, explaining that she was just coming to visit him in the dungeon. The demon gets angered, since he thinks the dungeon is too dangerous for her. However, the mother cat gets offended and insists that she can handle herself against the demons. She gets angry and starts schooling him in front of the principal, so the embarrassed demon drags her into the dungeon. There, he reminds the mother cat that he's still a feared demon in the human world with a reputation to uphold. Although the mother cat agrees to give him some more respect in public, the demon realizes she isn't serious at all. Afterward, it's time for Anne to give her introductory speech to her new students. Despite having so much experience, she still feels extremely nervous when faced with an audience. As the eager students look forward to her words, the pressure is too much for Anne to take, so she completely chokes on her words. Thankfully, the mother cat appears by her side and reassures the kids that she's a great teacher. She also reveals that she raised Anne as a kid and offers to teach the kids anything her daughter can. After giving Anne a chance to breathe, she asks her to give her speech, so she smiles and finally starts speaking. A few days later, one of Anne's students feels upset after failing an exam. She wonders why she can't pass, so Anne tells her she doesn't have enough mana. This only discourages the poor girl, so Anne explains that her own mana used to be weak as well. However, after regular practice with her spells, she was able to increase her mana to her current capacity. The student takes her advice and heads to magic practice the next day. She feels surprised after seeing Anne and the mother cat waiting for her, and tears up from their support. The student thinks she doesn't deserve so much special attention, but Anne reassures her that she's got what it takes. The mother cat nods, proudly bragging about her accomplishments with Anne. She embarrasses the poor teacher in public, revealing that Anne could only use tiny ice pebbles back in the day. It was only thanks to the mother cat's strict education and training that Anne grew to her current peak. After hearing this, the student gains even more motivation, and she starts working hard. Anytime she gets tired, Anne and the mother cat encourage her to keep training to develop her stamina further. The next day, the student visits the training ground for another training session. However, her secret somehow got out in class, so some other students join her to experience their teacher's private care. After several weeks of intense training, the students revisit the dungeon to attempt their challenge. From the fruits of their hard work, they complete the final level and celebrate their victory. For some reason, the greater demon appeared in front of them as a stone statue, so they wonder why he isn't using their cat form, trying to aura farm as the final boss. The poor demon is left in shambles by their non-serious attitude. He finally shows them his cat form, feeling completely humiliated. Meanwhile, back in school, the principal praises Anne for her great efforts. She smiles, accepting his gratitude, and suggests adopting some new policies to improve their school's learning environment. Anne thinks that the students should start accepting real jobs from guilds as a way of gaining experience, although the principal agrees that the experience will be invaluable for the students. He reminds her that she'll be involving their school with several external organizations. Still, Anne doesn't get discouraged, and she offers to negotiate the deals through the royal court. After the deal is finalized, her school starts officially sending its students away for internships. Since the internships involve real danger, the students are told to use flares to alert their teachers. When the first flare shoots through the sky, Anne is the first one to teleport and rescue her students. Afterward, the students return from their jobs, some of them successful, while the others sulk from failure. Regardless of their results, Anne feels extremely happy. With tears in her eyes, she congratulates everyone for taking their first steps towards becoming adult mages. A year later, it's time for all of the students to graduate, and they leave on a high note, excited for their future. As the years pass, the mother cat accompanies Anne, watching her magic school transform into one of the greatest institutions of the land. Several decades later, the forest dragon continues to raise the local cats. After years of living with them, the local cats have given him the name of Mr. Wing. One day, two couples of cats visit Mr. Wing's cave, planning to give birth under his protection. However, one of the female cats has an injured leg. She explains that some human hunters hurt her, so Mr. Wing gets enraged, thinking that the humans have gotten arrogant again. He flies, ready to rip the hunters into pieces. However, when he arrives, he finds the hunters being terrorized by other cats. When the dragon sees this, even he forgets his rage from the confusion. Then, he starts yelling at the cats for punishing the hunters instead of taking care of the pregnant cat. The cats shrink back at his warning, still trying to convince him that the hunters deserve their punishment. Mr. Wing agrees, but after he learns that these humans are not from the nearby kingdom, he understands why they fearlessly attacked the cats. He points out that if the cats killed these hunters in the forest, their homeland might fight with the nearby kingdom. To avoid getting his friends in trouble, Mr. Wing tells the cats to take the hunters to a nearby village for legal punishment. The cats accept his decision and leave, so Mr. Wing also returns to the cave to help the pregnant cats. When he gets back, both male cats are panicking for their wives. Thankfully, the babies are born without a problem. After the babies are out, some juvenile cats watch them play around. The cats find them cute, but Mr. Wing warns them that the babies might outgrow them if they slack off from their training. At his warning, the cats agree to train diligently, and they leave the cave to hunt. Meanwhile, one of the baby cats gets interested in Mr. Wing's claw. He attacks the claw with all his might, trying to break it off, watching his energetic child. The father cat thinks he'll become an excellent hunter in the future. 2 months later, the babies are close to weaning. Now, the mother cats feel rested and ready to hunt while Mr. Wing looks after their babies. The little claw cat is still fixated on Mr. Wing's claw. He keeps trying to steal it, hanging from it like a human. Watching him stand on his 2 legs, the cat's parents wonder if he'll live with a human in the kingdom. Mr. Wing thinks about this, recalling that all the cats who went into the kingdom chose a human partner with a good heart. However, he still thinks that it's very dangerous to trust a human, no matter how trustworthy they may seem. Because of this, he warns the cat never to live with humans. As the cat continues to bite his claw without a single thought, he realizes his words are falling on deaf ears. A few months later, the baby cats have fully grown up. Mr. Wing takes them out of the cave to teach them some magic. First, he demonstrates his shape-shifting magic, turning himself into his cat form. As the cats stare in awe, Mr. Wing explains that shape-shifting can be used to transform into anything, even if it's bigger than their own body. Then, he tries to teach them how to hunt. The cats seem more interested in his new feline body, so the dragon reminds him to get down and behave. He explains that in order to hunt, the cats must find prey they want to eat. Then, they should take it down and kill it before eating. He also reminds them that prey animals don't come for free. Since every animal wants to live, the prey would struggle to protect itself, so the cats need to learn how to fight. After this explanation, Mr. Wing suddenly turns into a murderous bear. In an instant, all of the cats scream and hide in the bushes behind them. Mr. Wing approves of their actions, pointing out that prey animals flee from their predators in a similar way. He also notices one of the cats standing its ground, ready to fight for its life. He then turns back into his cat form, preparing to teach the cats how to use magic. Noticing the claw cat standing behind him, Mr. Wing asks if he got hurt by his bear transformation. The cat reassures him that he's fine, looking into his eyes with intense focus. Later, the prince of the human kingdom visits Mr. Wing for the first time. After so many years, the young prince has grown into a fine gentleman. Watching him stand there, Mr. Wing notes that he's the first human to visit the forest's depths in many years. The prince chuckles, saying that he always wanted to visit his home. Nearby, the young cats feel curious about the prince. The cat's parents explain that this person is a human who happens to be one of Mr. Wing's friends. Hearing the word human, the baby cats wonder why they aren't scared of the prince, since they've always heard that humans can be extremely dangerous. The parents explain that each human has a different personality, so some of them can be truly kind. However, since there's a chance that a human can be extremely evil, the cats are always taught to avoid them. The prince walks over to the cats, happy to receive a warm welcome from the dragon's family. One of the baby cats is impressed by him, and he decides to visit the humans after growing up. Hearing this, Mr. Wing feels frustrated, since he wanted the babies to stay away from the humans. Afterward, he teaches all the cats how to traverse the forest's territory. After walking for a while, he notices something strange and tells everyone to hide. Once the cats are hiding in a bush, Mr. Wing points them to a group of human adventurers surrounded by a pack of wolves. Although the baby cats have already seen the prince, they don't recognize these adventurers as human. They think that the adventurers look a lot more muscular and different. Mr. Wing explains that the prince was relatively unarmed, since he wasn't visiting the forest for a fight. However, if a human wants to fight strong beasts, they must use external equipment since their bodies are not strong enough on their own. Mr. Wing also explains that some humans can use magic, which surprises the cats. Their whole life, all the cats have practiced magic, magic, so they never thought that some members of a species would be unable to use it at all. Mr. Wing explains that humans can be vastly different from each other, so each person can have different talents. As he explains this, the wolves try to attack the adventurers. Using their powerful weapons and fighting techniques, the adventurers easily tear the wolves apart. One of them uses a lightning bolt spell to kill 2 wolves with one attack. Watching them fight, the claw baby cat's eyes shimmer with admiration. Afterward, the humans leave the area with their loot. While the cats feel excited from the battle, Mr. Wing wonders why those humans came here. Usually, humans don't visit the forest depths, so the cats were incredibly lucky to observe them fighting. Among the young cats, the gray cat seems to be the most interested in human fighting techniques. Even later at night, he continues to chatter away about the humans, unable to stop thinking about them. The next morning, the gray cat's mother wakes him up to say goodbye to his older siblings. As he goes outside, he finds the older siblings lined up in front of Mr. Wing. Since the older cats have grown up, he asks them what they plan to do in the future. 2 of the cats want to live in a human town, while the other one wants to build his home near a lake. Mr. Wing wishes them good luck, saying that they're always welcome to visit his cave if they're ever in danger. The baby cats say goodbye as well, and after they're finished, the older cats leave to begin their journeys. Once they're gone, Mr. Wing reminds the baby cats that they'll also have to leave once they've grown up. To prepare for that day, he reminds them to continue their training. After some time passes, the baby cats are blessed with another bunch of siblings. Now that they've all grown up, they spend time playing with their siblings. Watching the tiny cats, their parents smile, recalling how their older children were the same size just a year ago. Mr. Wing also nods, feeling nostalgic for the past year. Although the entire year was full of chaos, he feels relieved that the cats have grown up safely. Sitting down to relax, he tells the older cats to behave well and set a good example for their young ones. Mr. Wing also warns the older cats that their younger siblings will grow up in no time. The cats nod, thinking it's only natural for them to grow quickly. However, they soon realize they completely underestimated the rate at which a cat grows up. Within a few weeks, the baby cats go from helplessly rolling around to walking on their own, and even hunting prey on their own. With some more time, the baby cats start learning magic as well, so their older siblings get worried they'll get outshined. A few days later, the older cats decide that they need to assert their dominance over the young ones. To do this, one of them suggests hunting a powerful creature in the forest. Though the other cats feel nervous, they agree to do it anyway. While the baby cats snore away, the older cats make a full plan to take down this powerful threat. After finishing their planning, all of them head out. Later, they return home, sweating and nervous like never before. Mr. Wing curiously looks at them, only to find them lugging a massive dead bear with their magic. Although the older cats are bruised and battered, they all feel incredibly proud to show off their kill to their siblings. While the baby cats swoon over their siblings, the older cats explain that it took them everything they had to hunt the bear. They also reveal that Kuratama, the cat who always loved Mr. Wing's claw, was the one who came up with their strategy. Unfortunately, Mr. Wing himself does not seem impressed by their feat. He sternly reminds the cats that they're supposed to avoid humans and bears at all costs, which completely ruins their festive mood. Faced with his rage, the cats go running to their mommies, who also scold them for their dangerous stunt. Soon, news of this incredible feat spreads across the entire forest. Many other cats learn that Mr. Wing's group hunted a bear on their own. With their incredible abilities, they think that this batch of cats has the potential to join the human adventurers. After a few months, the older siblings have all grown up as well. Once it's time for goodbye, Mr. Wing asks them about their future plans. Some of the cats want to start their families, while others want to claim territory far away from their home. Some of them also want to join the human kingdom. Hearing this, Mr. Wing nods, and he asks Kuratama about his plans. Excited, Kuratama tells him that he wants to become a human adventurer. Hearing this, even Mr. Wing becomes speechless. He wonders what Kuratama means, since he can't be a human as a cat. However, Kuratama reminds him that he knows how to use shape-shifting magic. Since the magic can be used to become a bigger creature, he has learned how to transform into a human. Then, he shows this transformation to Mr. Wing, taking the form of a young boy. The poor dragon is stunned, realizing that he taught this cat the very thing how to become the very creature he told it to avoid. As the cats notice Mr. Wing's reaction, they prepare to leave before he gets too angry. The cats who wanted to visit the humans' ride on on Kurotama while their baby siblings say goodbye. As the older cats leave, their parents laugh at their child's silly departure. Mr. Wing also sighs, knowing that he can't control what the cats want. In the end, he prays that the cats live happy lives no matter where they go. One day, a black cat from the forest, called Kirobane, takes a walk through the human kingdom. Because he's late to the city, it's already nighttime, so everyone else is asleep. It's actually this black cat's first time visiting the humans. Some days ago, Mr. Wing asked him to visit the humans. Recently, a new baby prince had been born, so the king wanted a wise cat from the forest to examine and guide his son. Since one of Kirobane's friends was close to the king, Mr. Wing asked him to visit the human kingdom in his stead. As Kirobane walks through the streets, he realizes that Mr. Wing has always tried to avoid humans, but whenever they make a request of him, he never says no. Unfortunately, because it's night at the moment, all of the cats who live with the humans are asleep. Kirobane decides to find the royal palace on his own. Nearby, he spots a giant building, which he figures is the castle. Using a special movement magic, he jumps over a wall, admiring the humans' architecture. Then, he decides to jump into a room through a window to rest for the night. However, the room is filled with the soft cries of a baby. Curious, Kirobane jumps on top of the bed, where he finds a blonde-haired baby. At the sight of the cat, the baby starts crying even harder, making Kirobane panic. To soothe the baby, he tries to rub its face with his soft tail. Feeling the cat's fur, the baby quickly calms down and starts laughing. Then, a maid enters the room to check on the baby, only to find him holding Kirobane's tail. She smiles, knowing that the king was expecting a forest cat to visit their kingdom. Kirobane explains that he accidentally made the baby cry, so now he's stuck being his nanny. The maid laughs, understanding why the prince didn't cry tonight. Hearing her words, Kirobane is surprised that this baby is actually the prince he was looking for. Feeling awkward, he explains to the maid that he was supposed to meet the prince's parents first. She offers to convey his message to the king, so the next day, Kirobane meets the king in his hall. There, the king laughs, happy to see him. All this time, he had heard rumors that a certain black cat in the forest had defeated a bear all by itself. Now, seeing the cat in front of him, he feels proud to have a strong mentor for his son. Kirobane feels awkward, thinking that the king himself is as massive as a bear. As the king asks for his opinion on his son, Kirobane points out that he's literally just a baby. Beside the king, his female cat companion smiles, recalling that she had first met him in a completely opposite manner. Back when the king was still a boy, he had approached the sleeping cat on his own. After his meeting with the king, Kirobane decides to spend some time in the royal palace to learn more about the prince. As the days pass, the black cat watches the prince grow up from a baby to a small child. A few years later, the prince has grown into a daring child who can fearlessly climb tall trees. Wanting to see Kirobane, he rushes into the royal training. There, he finds the king discussing a nearby war with the cats. The king explains that their neighboring country is fighting a war against the demon lord. Although his kingdom is unable to fight with them, he is sending supplies to aid the other country, wanting to fight the demon lord himself. The king feels upset, so Kirobane reminds him of his duties to the kingdom. The king admits that he's bound by his responsibilities. As a child, he always wanted to go adventuring or do something daring. He would never have expected to grow up as a king who would prioritize his kingdom at every step. Back then, the king encountered a bear as well. Unlike Kirobane, he didn't have the strength to defeat the bear, so he could only run for his life. As the prince listens to their conversation, the white cat explains that Kirobane is actually a legend among the cat Siths. Even though the cats are powerful beasts, most of them have no chance against a bear on their own. By killing a bear by himself, Kirobane did the impossible. Hearing this, he turns around, saying that there are other cats stronger than him. Since Kirobane was one of the group that first took down a bear, he thinks that his other siblings also have the strength to kill one on their own. Hearing this, the white cat realizes that he's one of the legendary siblings. She wonders what the other siblings are doing, so Kirobane explains that he hasn't contacted them in a while. As the three of them keep chatting, the prince interrupts, wanting a harder challenge from Kirobane. He jumps off the wall, asking the prince if he'd like to catch his tail next. This annoys the prince, so Kirobane leads him away. A few weeks later, the neighboring country won the war against the demon lord. To celebrate their victory, the country sends its heroes to visit the king as thanks for his support. Inside the palace, as the king congratulates the heroic warriors, Kirobane is stunned to find his own brother. Kuretama standing among them. Kuretama grins, playfully gesturing at him to remain silent. Inside, Kiribane feels amazed to know that his adventurous brother from back then has become so much stronger. Later, he finds the prince hiding in a tree. The prince asks Kiribane to teach him magic, so he explains that children are not allowed to learn it before the age of 8. Although the prince understands, he still feels excited after seeing the legendary heroes, wanting to become as strong as them. He asks Kiribane to take him out for adventuring. The prince thinks that a person can only become strong by going on adventures. Thinking about it, he decides that he ultimately wants to become as strong as Kiribane, since the black cat has raised him his entire life. The prince wants to be worthy of standing by his side. Hearing such big words from a young child, even the laid-back Kiribane is surprised. Now, he looks forward to seeing what the prince can achieve in the future. He warns the young boy that learning magic isn't enough for adventuring. Aside from magic, he must also obtain the right weaponry and equipment to survive in the wilderness. The prince nods, so Kiribane also tells him to adjust his attitude, wanting him to be even more confident than he is. Years later, under Kiribane's training, the prince becomes strong enough to fight on his own and use magic. One day, he sneaks out of the royal palace to kill a bear from the forest. Later, he drags the dead bear through town, catching the eyes of everyone present. Since the prince is technically a fugitive, he tries to keep his identity hidden from everyone. Dressed in a plain loincloth, he plops the dead bear into the Adventurers Guild, although he claims that he found the bear dead in the forest. The guild receptionists feel suspicious as they spot all the marks and bruises on his body. As Kiribane realizes that the prince is a horrible actor, he asks the receptionist to register him as an adventurer. A few months later, the prince has grown out his hair and dressed up in an elegant suit. He attends a royal ball, where he catches the eyes of some young ladies. Since the prince doesn't appear in public too often, some of the women ask for his name. They find out that he's called Stanlito. The girls are shocked to learn that the prince is only 12 years old, since he's extremely tall from his father's genetics and built like a man from all his training in the forest. Stanlito himself leaves the ball, annoyed by all the stupid royal guests and etiquette, since the prince only cares about adventuring. He hates all the attention from the ladies. Besides, he also thinks that he's too young for romance. Stanlito doesn't understand why noble women are all so predatory, so Kiribane reminds him that picking a romantic partner is like hunting for them. Instead of killing a target for food or glory, these girls do their best to find the most handsome and powerful man to secure a good status for themselves. Hearing the word for hunting, Stanlito gets excited and thinks he should hunt something as well. Kiribane also realizes that he's gotten rusty, so the prince tells him it's time to go out on another adventure. A few days later, it's the king's birthday party. There, the king greets all his guests, who are full of praise for his excellent son. Stanlito observes the gathering for a while before asking his father for a break until the upcoming fireworks ceremony. The king laughs, knowing that his son is exhausted from greeting guests all day, and he allows Stanlito to rest in his room for a while. Later, when it's time for the fireworks, one of the king's servants comes rushing with urgent news. He reveals that the prince is missing from his room, left with a message that he went out for an adventure. Shocked, the king facepalms, knowing he got tricked. Still, he knows it was bound to happen anyway, so he prays that his son stays safe. Meanwhile, Stanlito and Kiribane run as far as they can, aiming to reach the neighboring country beyond the Novice Forest. After some time, they stop in the forest to take a rest. Stanlito wonders if his identity will get exposed in the nearby country. Kiribane reminds him that the king will likely put out warning posters for him soon, so they need to hurry. For the time being, the prince cuts off his hair to avoid being found. In order to avoid being suspected, he decides to change his identity to a country bumpkin. To begin his transformation, he changes his name to Stan. Then, the prince goes to sleep on top of a tree branch. Kiribane is surprised by his weird posture, so the prince reminds him that it's safer to sleep high up. He nods and gets on a tree as well. However, the cat soon realizes that the soft mattresses and cushions of the royal castle have spoiled him. In the morning, he finds the prince kneeling in just his loincloth. Stan explains that he ditched his clothes to avoid being identified as a noble. Kiribane reminds him that even country bumpkins are allowed to wear clothes, but Stan doesn't pay it any mind. Then, he grabs a nearby rabbit and starts eating it raw. Even Kiribane, who is a predator anime, feels disgusted, but the prince thinks it's completely normal to eat like this. A few days later, he decides to search for a wolf to kill. Hearing this, Kiribane warns the prince that he's not ready for wolves, especially since they fight in packs. Suddenly, they hear a bear's cry nearby. Stan gets excited for a real challenge, but Kiribane warns him to back off. He reminds the prince that a bear is one of the strongest monsters in the forest, so they can't take any chances with it. However, the prince thinks he'll always continue being weak if he keeps running away like a coward. Against Kiribane's wishes, he casts a magic spell and runs towards the bear, asking him to save his life if the bear is too strong. In the end, Kiribane is completely enraged by the prince's stubborn behavior, but he still supports him with his lightning magic. After a while, they successfully defeat the bear. Then, they sell it in a nearby town for a nice fortune. With his new money, Stan happily buys some clothes to wear. He also rents an inn to rest. Inside, Kiribane scolds him for his reckless actions earlier. He reminds the prince that even with his magic, he should not fight an enemy without getting the proper equipment first. Hearing this, the prince decides to buy a weapon for himself. Wondering what weapon he should buy, he recalls that in the royal castle, there was a magic sword that perfectly conducted his mana. Now that he has the money, Stan wants to buy his own magic sword fit for an adventurer. A few days later, he decides to leave the town for more adventures. As the townsfolk gather to send him off, Stan thanks them all for taking care of him. All of the townsfolk still feel suspicious about this handsome kid who randomly showed up and turned their entire world upside down. Suddenly, one of them receives a missing person poster sent by the king himself. As they all look at the prince's picture, they finally realize that the adventurous rascal was the missing prince himself. Meanwhile, the prince himself rushes off, happy to begin his adventures. In the future, he will achieve great things and become known as the legendary hero king. Sometime later, a white cat asks Mr. Wing to venture into the mountains. Unfortunately for him, Mr. Wing keeps refusing because the mountains are too dangerous. Not only are the mountains far away from the forest, but they also contain monsters far stronger than forest bears. On the other hand, this white cat can't even kill a bear on his own, so Mr. Wing thinks he's got no chance out in the wild. However, despite his warnings, the white cat keeps begging him to let him go. He wants to go outside the forest to see a new world and to claim territory in a place where cats have never been seen before. Still, Mr. Wing firmly shuts down all his attempts to leave. The white cat doesn't get discouraged. Refusing to give up on his dream, he keeps pestering Mr. Wing again and again until he finally gets tired and agrees to let him leave. However, before the cat can go, Mr. Wing puts a magical GPS tracker on him for safety. With permission to explore the world, the white cat runs away, excited to begin its journey. Sometime later, the white cat finally arrives at the foot of the mountains. Despite knowing that the mountains house dangerous monsters, he looks forward to discovering new land and claiming some good territory. However, on the way to the mountains, he ate nothing but plain mice. Now, he feels bored with them and wants to try some new flavors. Since the mountains are filled with lush vegetation, the cat decides to hunt for some new prey. He spots some birds and squirrels nearby and rushes over to check them out. As he gets closer to a bird nest, the white cat prepares to use its hunting techniques. Then, he notices something unusual. A human girl has climbed on the tree and is slowly moving towards the birds. Somehow, this girl is concealing her presence, so the birds are staying in their spot. Finally, after reaching the birds, the girl quickly jumps and swipes them up with a net. The white cat is impressed by her catch, but then he realizes that she's going to fall straight to the ground. After landing on the ground, the girl remains motionless for a bit. Concerned, the white cat shakes her awake. He advises her to stop being so reckless. Hearing a cat talk for the first time, the girl thinks she has gotten brain damage from the fall. However, after the white cat explains that he really can talk, she decides to believe him. He asks her to be more careful during her hunts, but the girl confidently tells him that she's strong enough to avoid getting hurt. Still, the cat tells her to be safer. The girl admits that this is the only way she knows how to hunt, so the white cat wonders if her parents didn't teach her anything else. She smiles, revealing that she grew up as an orphan. Hearing this, the white cat feels bad for her. Then, as the girl examines her catch, she decides to hunt some more so everyone back at home can eat meat. Hearing this, the cat learns that she still lives with other people. The girl explains that she lives with other kids in an orphanage, run by a kind priest. After learning more about the girl, the cat decides to help her hunt. The girl doesn't think a tiny cat can do much, so he shows her a lightning spell. This lightning spell instantly kills a big rabbit and a bird, shocking the girl. As the girl is impressed, the cat takes this chance to brag about his own strength. He proudly tells her that although he can't kill a bear on his own, he's still strong enough to survive in the mountains. Then, he watches the girl remove the feathers and entrails from the animals. Curious, the cat asks why she's cleaning her meals so much. The girl explains that she's going to make some soup with the meat, so she needs to clean it first. Hearing this, the cat is pleasantly surprised. In the past, he tasted some soup prepared by royal chefs in the capital city. Since then, he has been in love with the simple but filling dish. Now, he's excited to try it once more. Seeing the excitement on his face, the girl kindly asks him to have dinner with her. Soon, they return to the orphanage, where all the children start admiring the white cat. Seeing the meat hanging from the cat's body, the kids wonder if they're helping their sister carry it. Offended, the white cat tells them he hunted it all on his own. Hearing him talk, all of the kids are surprised just like their elder sister was. The big sister explains to all the kids that the cat hunted most of their catch, so they all get impressed. Suddenly, the priest comes home, upset at the girl for going hunting again, as he scolds her for getting hurt all the time. The white cat feels relieved to see an adult guarding the kids. Meanwhile, the girl argues with the priest, acting like she didn't get hurt at all. Unfortunately, the white cat calls her a liar, which annoys her even more. The priest notes that this girl caught many more animals than usual, so he figures that the cat must have helped her. He thanks him for taking care of the girl. The cat smiles, reminding the priest that he's still waiting for his soup as payment. Hearing this, the priest nods. He introduces the girl as Gally and reassures the cat that she makes great soup. Behind him, Gally quietly tries to slip away to avoid getting scolded again. Sadly, the priest catches her and starts chewing her out again. At this, the white cat thinks that the priest is a responsible guardian. Once Gally and the priest are away, the other kids come closer to him. Curious, they all start petting him in different places to test his reactions. At first, the white cat enjoys their pets and scratches. Then, one of them grabs his tail, which really irritates him. Still, as an adult cat, he forces himself to remain gentle with the kids. This only backfires because the kids get even bolder with his tail. Sometime later, Gally finishes her soup and calls everyone to eat. After serving the other kids, she gives the white cat a plate of soup as well. Before eating, all of the kids thank God for the food. Then, the white cat takes his first taste of the soup. Gally hopes that the soup isn't too spicy, but the cat doesn't even wait for her. He starts chowing on it like a starved wolf and empties the entire plate in a second. After finishing his soup, the cat is so impressed by Gally's cooking that he thinks she's some kind of angel. At nighttime, the kids are still playing with the white cat when Gally tells them it's bedtime. After the kids leave, the priest appears, wanting to talk to the white cat in his personal room. He takes the cat to a study where the door is locked with a magic password. As the priest opens the door with his magic, the white cat is surprised. Inside the room, he finds the walls decorated all sorts of adventuring gear. The priest explains that he used to be an adventurer who explored all kinds of places with his friends. In fact, some of the gear in this room actually belong to his old friends. He smiles, revealing that he also visited the forest in his youth. As the cat is impressed, both of them start sharing stories of their life. The priest soon learns that it took a lot of effort for the white cat to convince Mr. Wing. Although he understands why the cat wanted to experience something new, he thinks Mr. Wing did the right thing by being careful with him. To avoid the dangerous creatures in the mountain, he suggests that the cat take a different route around it. Hearing this, the cat explains that it would go against his goal of finding good territory within the mountains. However, before conquering any territory, the cat knows it must become stronger. The priest suggests that he stay at his orphanage until he gets strong enough. He points out that all the kids love him. In addition, the cat also loves Gally's soup, so it's a win-win situation for everyone. At the thought of eating her delicious soup every day, the cat gets tempted to stay. Then, he recalls Gally's atrocious hunting technique, so it decides to teach her while he's staying as well. Suddenly, a dark shadow flashes by the window. Both of them notice, and the priest wonders if he's seeing right. The cat sighs, knowing that it's the protective Mr. Wing checking on him for his safety. Outside, Inside, Mr. Wing circles around the orphanage for a bit. Once he's satisfied that the white cat is safe, he leaves the area. The next morning, the white cat is bombarded with even more curious kids trying to pet its body. After a while, the kids finally leave when the priest calls them inside for lessons. Exhausted from their attention, the cat wonders why there are even more kids now. Gally explains that these kids aren't orphans. They just visit every day to study under the priest. Hearing this, the cat understands, but he wonders why Gally isn't going inside like the rest. She reveals that she has already learnt it all, so the cat asks what she does during her free time. Instead of studying with the kids, she actually goes to the Adventurer Guild for some jobs. Hearing this, the cat wonders how she gets paid for her horrible hunting skills. Gally gets offended, pointing out that she takes other missions like gathering, which are easy for her. Confused, the cat wonders why they need an adventurer to do basic tasks like gathering herbs. At this, Gally reminds him that the mountains are filled with danger. Although any person can easily gather the herbs, they cannot protect themselves if a wild beast attacks them. Since Gally is powerful enough to use magic, she can safely take on these jobs. Still, the cat isn't convinced. As he follows Gally to the guild, she proudly tells him that the priest taught her magic because of her incredible talent. Since she can use magic, the cat wonders why she doesn't use it to hunt. Gally reveals that she can only use an explosion spell, so it would cause a disaster if she used it for small tasks. After some time, they reach the Adventurers Guild. The white cat wonders why the guild is so small, so Gally reminds him that they're currently in a small town, aside from the massive royal capital. Most guilds are small with few visitors. Then, she warns the cat to stop insulting their little town before entering the guild. After she accepts a quest, the white cat wonders if she's the only adventurer in town. Gally explains that there are other adventurers as well, but they usually head out to complete their quests early in the morning. As they walk towards the meadows, the white cat asks Gally about all the monsters in the wild. She tells him that the meadows have clawed locusts and razor-fanged moles, but the cat thinks these are just pests. Gally nods, but she warns him that these bugs and critters are quite big and fierce. Still, she proudly admits that she can handle all of them. Behind her, the cat remains silent, since he's used to powerful magic. He thinks that Gally isn't strong enough to even dream of bigger monsters. Soon, they find the medicinal herb Gally needs for her quest. She sits down and begins digging the herb out, explaining that the roots must remain intact. Otherwise, the entire plant loses its value. Watching her painstakingly pull it out, the cat wonders why she doesn't just use magic to remove it. Once again, Gally reminds him that she can only use explosion magic, which is clearly unsuitable for this work. Hearing this, the cat finds another herb and shows her how to easily remove it with levitation magic. Surprised, Gally asks him to help her gather the rest of the herbs. Unwilling to work so much, the cat refuses. However, Gally bribes him with the promise of extra soup, so he quickly agrees. After a while, they fill up an entire bag with the herbs. Gally thinks it's time to go, feeling happy that they've collected so much. As she thinks about all the money from the herbs, the cat senses something strange nearby. Suddenly, he turns around, sensing a group of giant locusts behind them. Noting his stance, Gally takes out a magic wand to fight. As the locusts charge, the white cat uppercuts one of them. Then, he paralyzes the other two locusts with his magic. With the critters held in place, Gally casts her explosion magic at them. In front of the cat's shocked eyes, the explosion magic blows up like a nuclear bomb. He starts screaming at Gally for being so careless, but she thinks it's completely normal for her magic to be so destructive. Usually, human magicians face problems with a lack of mana when using magic spells. In Gally's case, it looks like she's way too powerful for her own good. The cat asks her to practice her magic control, but Gally thinks it's too much work. Afterward, they start walking back home with the herbs. Suddenly, the white cat offers to teach Gally all about magic. Curious, she turns around to hear him out. In the cat's mind, Gally will definitely accept his offer to make her life of gathering herbs and roots easier. If that happens, the cat thinks he'll score the jackpot and get infinite tasty soup from her. Unfortunately, he comes back to reality as Gally plainly refuses, saying it's too much work. Desperate to grab her attention, the cat cat starts enticing her with all the meat and money she could have with better magic spells. Although Gally still isn't too interested, she decides to agree as long as her training sessions aren't too long. The cat's heart burns with the passion of making her a first-class mage. After some time, Mr. Wing quietly observes them in his cat form. Although he was worried about the white cat, he thinks it's okay to entrust him to the kind humans in this orphanage. The white cat notices his presence, but he remains silent since Mr. Wing wishes to remain hidden. After Mr. Wing leaves, the cat follows Gally, eager to begin her training lessons. As the days pass, he decides to stay with her for a long time, becoming best friends with her. After this, we see another story of the cats. Although most cats have different personalities and things they enjoy, all the forest cats can agree on one thing. It's called foxtail grass, a strange plant that grows a fluffy, tail-shaped fruit that all cats love to play with. During Mr. Wing's childhood, the mother cat also brought him to a foxtail field to play. While the other cats rushed to pick some foxtails, Mr. Wing hesitated because he was worried that his claws would break the fruits. The mother cat explained that foxtails are actually pretty tough, so he can grab one without worries. Hearing this, he reached out a clawed hand to touch the strange fruit. Elsewhere, another elderly cat called Monshamosha found a foxtail to play with. Although cats love these strange plants, they are quite rare in the forest, so they don't get to play with them too often. If two cats found only one foxtail, sometimes they would get into a fight to claim the toy for themselves. After seeing this, Mosha went to a human town to observe their farming techniques. This village was blessed with fertile land, so Mosha got to see how the humans sowed their seeds, trimmed the plants, took care of the weeds, and watered the fields to help their crops grow. Over time, he became friends with all the villagers and lived a whole year with them. After a full harvest, Mosha returned to the forest to begin his own experiments. Now that he knew how farming worked, he decided to create a foxtail field of his own. Before beginning the farming, he uprooted some trees in one corner of the forest to create an even patch of land. After the patch was cleared, Mosha planted some foxtail seeds in the ground and did his best to take care of them. Unfortunately, because foxtail was a rare plant, it required special circumstances to grow, which he could not provide. As Mosha continued his work, many curious cats stayed with him to see his results. However, after he faced countless failures, the cats grew bored and left. Then, after months and months of hard work, Mosha finally figured out how to grow a foxtail plant. With this technique, he planted more seeds around his field and soon filled it up with a maze of thick foxtails. Seeing an entire field of foxtails, all the forest cats quickly flocked over to play on his land. Even Mr. Wing was impressed by Mosha's hard work, so he named the field Monshamosha Square in his honor. Then, he offered to protect Mosha's field from threats. Over time, the field became a restricted zone to preserve the delicate foxtail plants. To maintain the field, Mosha passed it down to some qualified cats after teaching them how to grow foxtail plants. The cats who succeeded him also gained the title of Monshamosha. After several decades, the original Mosha has already passed away. Now, the field is in the hands of the fourth generation Mosha. One day, Mr. Wing brings some young cats to Mosha Square for education. He explains that this pretty field is off limits because Mosha grows his foxtail plants here. Hearing this, the cats wonder if they can never come here again. However, Mr. Wing reveals that there is one time of the year they can play as much as they want in the field. On that day, Mosha invites all of the cats in the forest to play with the fully grown foxtails. As he explains this to the cat, he recalls his last meeting with the third Mosha. The third Mosha introduced him to the fourth generation Mosha, who reminded Mr. Wing of the original Mosha. After the third Mosha passed away, the fourth Mosha officially took over the foxtail field. Months later, it was planting season, so the fourth Mosha started preparing for work. Unfortunately, his lazy students were nowhere to be seen. Angered, Mosha shouted at them to stop fooling around and get to work. In an instant, all three of his students rushed out. After informing them that it's planting season, Mosha noted that the third cat was a complete newbie who had never planted before. Before starting, he advised the newbie cat to ask him for help if he ever got confused. Otherwise, he would just make a mess if he kept working without the right technique. Mosha also reminded him to be extremely careful, since all of the forest cats look forward to playing with the foxtails on the special day. After these instructions, Moshe patted the newbie cat for encouragement. Then, he took all the cats out to the playing ground. There, he reminded the cats that foxtails are measured by their size. The bigger a foxtail, the more fun it is to play with. Knowing this, he asked the newbie cats how they could intentionally grow bigger foxtails. The key to this was focusing on the plant's roots, where the plant absorbs nutrients. If they paid attention to the roots while planting, the plant above ground would absorb more nutrients and grow bigger. In order to grow bigger roots, Moshe showed the cats that they needed to plow the land to make enough room for them. By digging the ground up, they broke down the harder soil layer to allow the roots to spread through softer soil. After this explanation, Moshe told his senior students to show the newbie how it's done. One of the cats started by shooting large holes into the ground with magic. After the ground became bumpy and uneven, the other cat blasted it with wind magic to blow the top layer away, revealing soft, smooth soil underneath. Seeing this, the newbie cat touched the soil, surprised to see it so soft. Moshe praised his students for doing a good job, but he pointed out that these two couldn't prepare the whole soil on their own. For now, they could only use the magic spells they were good at to prepare the land together. Hearing this, the senior cats got a bit bummed out. Then, Moshe asked the newbie cat which magic he could use. The newbie told him that he could use earth magic, so Moshe asked him to show it. The newbie shot at the land like his first senior to create bumpy holes. At first, the cats were impressed, thinking that it worked. However, the newbie quickly realized that his magic had failed to break the harder chunk of the land. Laughing, Moshe encouraged the young cat to keep going, since everyone makes mistakes. Then, he stepped forward to demonstrate his own techniques. Moshe raised a paw into the air, charging a special magic with his hand. The cats watched, eager to see his special technique. Once the spell was finished charging, Moshe slammed his hand into the ground, which sent the magic force rippling through the soil. Somehow, the force of his magic caused the soil to flow like a lake, stripping away the top layer of hard soil in just one move. After the soil calms down, the newbie checks it out, shocked to see that this soil is even softer than the patch his seniors tilled. Behind him, Moshe reminded the kids that he wasn't going to till the entire field by himself, so they needed to handle of it on their own. Hearing this, all three cats started complaining, but Moshe scolded them and sent them to work. Seeing the youngsters slack off at work, it reminded him of his teacher, the third Moshe, who used to get angry at him in the same way. After recalling this, Moshe got into a better mood and walked away laughing. A few days later, the cats finish tilling the land. Instead of planting the seeds, Moshe goes around sniffing the ground for some reason. The newbie wonders why he's doing this, so the seniors explain that he's searching for traces of leftover mana in the soil. The newbie asks why this is important, so the seniors reveal that if they plant the foxtail seeds before removing the mana, it could turn the plants into giant monsters. Hearing this, the newbie was shocked, wondering what kind of crazy failures the first generation Moshe went through to discover these techniques. Then, Moshe calls them all to start planting the seeds. He takes out a bag filled with foxtails, explaining that the tiny grains on the tails are actually the plant's seeds. Seeing how many tiny seeds there are, the newbie wonders if they can just use wind magic to blow them all into the field. However, Moshe reminds him that he just spent a whole day sniffing out all of the mana in the soil, so the wind magic would completely ruin their efforts. Instead, to avoid infecting the soil, they must plant all these seeds manually. To demonstrate, he picks up some foxtails in his mouth and shakes them over the soil. For these small cats, shaking their necks so vigorously over the entire field is a very hard task. Unfortunately, they have no other choice but to safely plant the seeds. After a short while, the student cats get tired and start slacking off, so Moshe scolds them. Then, the newbie's legs give out, and he collapses in exhaustion, feeling his aching body. The newbie wonders if his magic and stamina just aren't enough to keep up with the seniors. Seeing this, Moshe reminds him that this is the last step before they can leave the plant to grow on its own. He encourages the newbie to get up and pull through with the final stretch, which gives him the motivation he needs. Then, after hours of hard work, the seeds are finished planting. A few days later, clouds gather in the sky and start raining down, allowing the foxtails to grow. Soon, the entire field gets covered with foxtail grass with small buds. While going through the field, the newbie notices some weeds and wonders if he should pull them out. Moshe is impressed by his caution and explains that he should leave the weeds weeds be? This is because the first Moshe already tried to remove all the weeds from his crops. For some reason, when the original Moshe removed the weeds, the foxtails completely failed to grow. When he decided to leave the weeds, he found out that they helped the foxtails grow to fruition. Since then, the next generation of Moshes always left the field to grow as it was. Suddenly, some monsters sneak into the foxtail field. Disturbed by their presence, all of the cats turn around. As Moshe approaches the monsters, the newbie wonders what they are. His seniors explain that these are giant clawed locusts, which love eating the foxtail grass. Suddenly, Moshe screams at the locusts to get off his property. Unfortunately, one of the locusts refuses to listen and tries to attack him from the air. Enraged, Moshe swats it out of the sky. Then, he barks at his students to take them out as well. All 3 student cats rush in, using their magic and fighting techniques to attack the locusts. As they fight, Moshe reminds them to avoid touching the ground with their magic. Then, he turns to face the rest of the locusts all on his own, and bravely charges into the swarm. After a while, the cats all collapse from exhaustion. Even after all their training, each of them only managed to take down 1 locust on their own. On the other hand, Moshe IV took care of the entire remaining swarm all by himself. Then, he turned around and told the student cats to dump the locusts somewhere else. As the cats picked them up with their magic, they realized that Moshe spared the locusts' lives, straining under the heavy weight. The cats wondered why they couldn't just leave the locusts on their own. So Moshe reminded them that these dim-witted bugs would just return to eat his foxtails again. The cats carried the locusts away, but the newbie was unable to withstand the weight. As he fell down, the seniors told him to rest while they handled the locust. On the ground, the newbie cat wonders what kind of magic, strength, knowledge, and experience it must have required for all Moshes to take care of these special fields. Having experienced the grueling field work himself, he realizes that all these Moshes are incredible cats. Days later, the foxtails have ripened as a result of everyone's hard work. On the night they're fully mature, Moshe sends a firework into the sky which looks like a foxtail. As the firework explodes in the sky, all of the forest cats learn that Foxtail Day is coming soon. The next day, the entire forest cat population visits Moshe Square to play in the fields. Cats of all ages, shapes, and sizes interact with each other, meeting old and new friends and family. Even Mr. Wing has come to visit, though he's swarmed by all the other cats who want to see him. Moshe walks over to Mr. Wing, who praises him for growing yet another amazing foxtail field. Moshe nods respectfully and takes him to the largest foxtail of the year. In fact, this foxtail is so large that it reminds Mr. Wing of the first time he ever played with one. Back then, he was just a baby dragon playing under the mother cat's watchful eyes. Even now, he happily plays with the giant foxtail, happy to relive his childhood memories. Watching all the forest cats enjoy the results of his labor, Moshe smiles happily. Right now, the old cat has no worries except choosing a good successor from his students. That was episode 6. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.